Well, I'm Jim Costa. Welcome back to A Costa Living. If you're coming from one of our other videos, congratulations, you're just hungry for some information. Now, we just finished the kind of the investment video on if you're coming out of college and you're making some pretty good money and a good job and you're kind of going to go the corporate route and climb that corporate ladder, and you have a little more money than you have time. And so if you haven't watched that video, at the end there'll be a link to it, and just you can watch that video. It's great for anybody starting out and just how to invest in the 401k if you're not familiar with it, how to participate in an employee sponsored program, get the employer match, and then also how to open up a Roth IRA and kind of the benefits of that. So it's a great video. Now we're getting to the exciting part. This is the part that I like. This is the route that I took to retire, and it's through real estate. There's so many benefits in real estate, and there's more millionaires made from real estate than any other thing. This is the route I took. I knew that I wasn't going to have the corporate job. I didn't have a college degree when I was younger. I just finished my college degree a couple years ago. I just did that for myself. In fact, I graduated last year with my degree. Went back to school, but that was just for me. You don't need a college degree to do this. And this is really made for people that are having a minimum wage job, $15 an hour, all the way up to $75,000, $80,000. And obviously, this stuff can be done, regardless of income. And that's kind of what we're going to talk to you about. So the other thing that I want you to know about this, we kind of covered it in the other video about the two main sources or the two main assets that we have, and those are time and money. You usually have one or the other. So if you have a big corporate job, you have big degrees, you're working for a big company, you usually have lots of money, you're making good pay, but you have no time, you're working too far. If you are on a minimum wage job or kind of a minimum job, you don't have a lot of money, but you go to work, you do your job, and you're done. You don't have that. You're not working at home, extra hours and everything else. So you have a little bit extra time on your hands. You can work that side hustle that we talked about. Again, we'll have other videos based on side hustles and what you can do. Hopefully in the future, we can actually interview some people that have side hustles and what they're doing and how they're double D'ing on their triple D side hustles. So anyway, let's get to this. Now, if you like all of these ideas and you want to see how retirement works, how real estate works, how to improve your credit scores, everything personal finance. We're going to go into budgets, how to do a kind of a cost comparison for cars, how to buy a car, just a lot of different subject matters that deal with personal finance. This is basically the educational finance classes that you never got in school. So if you like these ideas, please triple D this video. We really want to define this video by smashing the like button. It just helps the YouTube algorithm. And then I want to help develop this channel. So if you could please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And select that bell icon. You'll be notified of new videos that come out. And then most importantly, help me deliver my message. Share this video with someone who you think might benefit from this information. And the best of all, it's all free. It doesn't cost you anything. So this is a double D on your triple D. So let's get into the real estate side of things here. My original video was too long, so we cut it up and we separated out the real estate side of this. And again, this is kind of a brief overview of what to do. And so we're going to kind of turn it over to the computer screens and we'll kind of show you, because we've got a lot of numbers and analysis and things that we're going to do. So we're going to take that to you now. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to cover here are the average home prices. So this graph here shows the average home value in all 50 states. And from research, the average home right now is about $297,000, $295,000. And so what I did is I just kind of took this map, and you can kind of see down here where they have the colors. So between this light blue and a little bit darker blue is the 300,000. So somewhere between here and here is where the average homes are selling across the U.S. Now, this is strictly for informational purposes. The numbers are important, but they're not that important, if that makes sense. We're kind of going over the numbers here. You can adjust the numbers for where you live. So in this 300, I just picked a place. So I picked Arizona because it's pretty close to the 300,000. And again, I don't own property in Arizona. I don't live in Arizona. Maybe would like to own a piece one day. But anyway, so we're going to use Arizona as the basis for a single family home. So within Arizona, there are a lot of homes that are kind of in that 200 to 300 range. There's not a lot. There's a few. And then there's a lot of them in that 275 to 350. And they go up, over the millions. But there's quite a few that are in this price range of around 300,000, give or take 50,000. So it's a good thing for kind of middle America and where most people are going to be. Again, adjust the numbers accordingly. So now that we picked a place, we picked your basic single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot. That's kind of your basic real estate home. I want you to change your thought process a little bit. I'm going to show you why real estate is such a great investment and what you should kind of do with the next steps. Rather than buy a single family home, if you're starting out, I highly recommend this for all beginning investors. Everybody wants to get into a home, not necessarily their dream home, but your starter home is you want to get into a home, you want to have a place, for kids and for pets and all that kind of stuff. When you're first starting out, mainly in your 20s and early 30s, if you're not married yet, you don't have a family, I recommend buying a multi-unit complex. And this is why. When you buy anything less than 4 units, so 1 to 4 units, it's classified as a primary residence or a residential unit, and it's has favorable financing terms. So you can get much better financing on 1 to 4 units than you can anything over 4. Over 4 units, you're now getting into commercial, and there's totally different loan issues and LTVs and just different requirements for commercial versus residential. So we really want to start looking at multi-unit properties, preferably a fourplex because you're spreading your risk a little bit more. If you can't find a fourplex, go to a triplex. Can't find a triplex, go to a duplex. And we're going to go over the numbers here and show you how the numbers work. And there's been a lot of investors and a trend recently to start buying these up. People are either invested in the stock market or they're invested in real estate. And so with the stock market as big as it is, people have been pulling money out of the stock market and buying real estate. Also to kind of hedge against inflation, and we'll cover that as well. And so there's been a lot of investors buying up these multi-unit properties. So they're getting harder and harder to find, but you can still find them, and we will show you the numbers of what's out there. Most people want to buy a bread and butter real estate. And what I mean by bread and butter real estate, they're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 to 1,500 square feet. What I'm going to ask you to do is to change your thought process, because usually for not much more money, you can actually buy a multi-unit complex. And with a multi-unit complex, you can still take advantage of the favorable financing. You can get into a property just like you can with the residential primary home with 3% down. And again, we're setting up for retirement. So rather than buy a house that we're going to move into ourselves as a one person or one unit or one family and create a liability, we're going to buy a multi-unit complex and create an asset. And let me show you how this works. So the average home in Arizona was $300,000. Let's look at a piece of property. And again, this particular property is irrelevant. It's just the numbers to go over for you. And we're going to show you how this works. And I just wanted to show you that I use something common. This is Phoenix, Arizona. So this is in Arizona where we saw, rather than spend $300,000,
we're going to spend $395,000. And I wanted this to be realistic, so what I did is I went and pulled something that actually sold. So somebody actually bought this property, and they bought this on March 5th, 21. So this is something that literally just sold a couple weeks ago. So a couple things that I'm looking for here for a first property. If you're a single person, male, female, you're in your 20s, then this could be an ideal investment for you. I mean, this one already sold, but this idea or this concept here. Now, again, I don't know Arizona. I don't know where this is located. There's obviously a lot more that goes into this as far as the location, where it's at, things that you're researching, other comps. You're looking at the neighborhood, the school districts, the job market. There's just a whole lot of other stuff, but we're not looking at that right now. We're looking at just the investment idea of buying a multi-unit complex and what those numbers look at. So some of the things I'm looking for, are right here. It's a new listing in Phoenix. It's a fourplex. Okay, I love that. It's got 4 units. I'm maximizing my owner occupy. The most you can go is 4 units. It's 100% leased. Again, another great thing. Price to sell. Everything's price to sell. Everybody puts that. This is a key point here. New roof in 2018 and new exterior paint in 2018. That's very important. We'll cover that a little bit later. These are 2-bedroom, 1-bath units. So again, not as big as a house that you're going to be moving into, but these are perfect rentals. 2-bedroom, 1-bath. You tend to get some older people or couples. People will tend to stay a little bit longer. These are long-term tenants. That tells you right there they've been here for a long term. This also is kind of good month to month. Now this is good for you because you're actually buying this as an owner occupy, so you're going to end up having to move into one of these units. So month to month is nice because you're going to be in escrow for 60 days. You're going to have to end up kicking somebody out, unfortunately. Now perhaps you can find somebody, maybe there's a single individual there that you kind of get along with, and maybe they can become your roommate, and you can kind of work something out there. Below market rents. This is key. These are one of the key things that I'm looking for. So there's 2 things that you look for when you're buying rental property. As you're looking for something, overall arching theme, you're looking for value add. Where can I add value to this property? And one of the top things to add value is to find something that needs a little bit of work. People say, well, I don't want to do any work. Well, when you can do simple things, like you can paint the inside of a unit, you can put in new carpet, you can put in new paint, you can put some new appliances. These are things that you can do, or you can hire people to do relatively cheap to do it. I'm getting away from carpet in all of my stuff, because if after 10, 15 years of when you tear up carpet and you see all the stuff that's under carpet, that's just nasty stuff. And right now you can get the vinyl click together flooring, very inexpensive. It's easy to install. It just clicks together. You can do it in a weekend, and it's nice stuff. Especially the waterproof stuff. Waterproof is what I'm going on all my units, just because it doesn't buckle and it doesn't have the wear that some of the older stuff used to have. So below market rents is the other area that you're gonna want to get into. Again, if I can't fix something up and increase the value, then I'm going to raise the rents and increase the value. When you fix up a property and increase the value, now you're double D, and you're doing 2 issues. You're increasing the look and the feel of the unit, and you're getting a higher rent for it. So they already know that these are below market, and so that is something where you can have the value add. What happens is you get a lot of these investors that are self-managing their property, and even some property managers that aren't on top of rents. They don't raise rents. People tend to become friends with their tenants, and so if you're friends with your tenants, it's much harder to come back next year and go, oh, I'm raising your rent $30, $40. And if you're dealing with long-term tenants, these people can have been in here for years with no rent increases. So it wasn't listed in this listing. My guess is these rents were probably between $500 and $600. And going rents for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in the Phoenix area is about $800 for my research. So these could be going or should be going for about $800. The other thing is owner pays water, sewer, and garbage. I try to get all my tenants to pay the water, sewer, and garbage. The only time I don't is if I happen to have a unit, a multi-unit, and it's on 1 meter. If it's on 1 meter, it's hard to separate it out. So I usually just incorporate that into the rent. So I just know, like for a fourplex like this, if my water is going to be $200, I just know I'm going to charge each unit another $50. You can also charge back the tenant. There's a lot of places that do this. Even big apartment complexes do this. A lot of times they'll do it for garbage, or they'll send a separate bill. So you pay your rent and they send a separate bill. The nice thing about that is, in people's minds, they're not looking at, wow, my rent is $850 instead of $800. They'd rather see that lower cost of $800 and then get a bill for $50 to pay. So it's just a kind of a mental thing. So let's look at these numbers and go into a little bit more detail of what this looks like once we buy this property. So we have a purchase price of $395, and because you're buying this owner occupy, you're able to get in with 3% down. Again, we took our money we've saved up over the last 2 years from our $100 side hustle, put in with a little bit of savings, not much. You now have your down payment. So what we're looking at is $395, your down payment of 3%, which is $11,850, and you got a loan of $390. Now some of you are going, wait, Jim, you got $395 minus your down payment. How come my loan's $390? Well, when you buy a home, there's a lot of expenses that go in with actually getting your loan. You're going to have closing costs. You're going to have appraisals. You're going to have recording fees. There's just a lot of costs that go into that. So I'm just saying $391 for round numbers, but then for two, because you have these extra expenses. Now, in reality, kind of the reality check here is you can have the seller pay for a lot of these, and the least amount of money that you can get into a property, the better. If you can't put 20%, put as little as possible. So you can have the seller pay for a lot of these and just increase the price, especially with the interest rates right now. Finance all those fees. Try to get in, save your cash up. So the loan is $390. A 30-year fixed is 3.5%. The going rate right now is a little bit lower, like 3.2, 3.3. I put 3.5. It's nice and round, and it's pretty similar to probably what people are going to get. So $1,746.18 is your principal and interest payment. Now, something else. Because you didn't put 20% down, you're going to have to pay private mortgage insurance. And private mortgage insurance, the cost of that fluctuates when you initially buy, depending on who you go with to get your loan and which bank and whatnot. On average, it's about 0.5%. This is what I figure in for PMI. Some banks might charge you more, but once it's locked in, it's locked in. So I figured 0.5% on top of your 3.5, which comes out to $162.50, and then on top of that, you're going to have your taxes and insurance. Now, I don't know the Arizona market very well. Every place charges different taxes and insurance based on a lot of factors. Now, for me, where I live, this tax is very low for $395. I figure about 1.2% from my area, so I'd be paying a little over $4,000 in taxes. I physically went to the county's website and looked up this property to see what they pay in taxes, and this is the amount that they pay. So those are the numbers that I'm using. So you take all your monthly expenses, you're looking at $2,054.68. Now the rental income, like I said, from my research, the 2-bedroom, 1-baths are going for $800 times 4 is $3,200. So again, you're occupying one of these, but you're going to include your numbers in these because at the end of the year, you're going to buy another one of these, you're going to move out, and you're going to move somebody else in to cover this cost. So these numbers are going to be very accurate. And again, initially, you got to pay rent somewhere. So rather than pay rent somewhere else, you might as well pay rent to yourself. And again, you could even go a step further and double D on this, and you can house hack. You can get a roommate to come in. Your roommate can pay $400 or $600, and now you're living there for $400 a month or $200 a month. Mind blown. Anyway, another way to double D. So your monthly cash flow, you're taking your income minus your outlay, you're at 1145. Now this is where a lot of beginning investors get into trouble. They look at this monthly cash flow because in reality this is what's going to happen. You're going to have $3,200 come in, everybody's going to pay their rent, you're going to make your mortgage payment, and you're going to go, wow, I got $1,145 left in my bank account. And you spend this money. Big mistake. Count this money separate. Don't look at this money because this money is what's going to help fund your next deal as well. But where beginning investors get in trouble is they don't count on these other expenses because they're not realized on a monthly basis. Look, at some point you're going to have maintenance. You're going to have to fix things. And I count on $25 to $50 per unit per month. So I'm just going to throw this number in there. You got 4 units at $25 is $100. You got a management fee. Now you can negotiate this with different property managers. You're going to be somewhere between 5 and 10%. The more properties you have, the lower the rate you're going to get. The fewer you have, the higher the rate. The more turnover, depends on what you're doing. This is going to affect your cost. Now initially, I suggest that everybody manage their own property initially for a couple reasons. One, it's a learning experience. You're going to know what goes into this thing. Now, again, depending on where you're at, time and money wise, again, if you're in the higher range, you're going to be putting a larger down payment and you're going to be hiring a property manager because your time's, on paper a little more valuable and, you can afford to pay somebody. If you're on the lower pay scale, you have time, you don't have money, so you're going to manage yourself and you're going to keep this money. It's $160 a month for doing nothing. Don't get me wrong, property managers do stuff. I have not found a good property manager. I still manage all my own property. CapEx. This is a huge misfiguration on most investors. What a CapEx is these are your capital expenditures. These are the big dollar items that kind of sometimes sneak up on you and sometimes they don't. They're just expenses that people don't account for. This is your $15,000 roof. This is your $7,000 exterior painting. These are your $600 to $1,000 hot water heaters to get them installed, and I installed them myself. Again, you can save money by doing that. So these are just, if you have asphalt, driveways, siding, dry rot, windows, if you can upgrade your windows, electrical, the sinks, the appliances. These are all things that you're going to have to fix at some point. You're going to put new flooring in. You're talking $2 to $3 a square foot. So you're talking $1,800 every time you replace the flooring in one of these units. So all of these expenses you're going to have. It's just a matter of time. So you want to put money away from these. Again, $50 to $100 a unit. I put $300. Vacancy turnover. People are going to move out at some point. You just got to count on it. Now, again, if you keep your rents a little bit lower than what the going rents are, if people are thinking about moving out, they're going to go look and see what's out there. And they're going to go, man, it's more expensive to move. I'm just going to stay where I am. So there's some advantages to that. Now, at some point, people are going to just transfer. They're going to get a new job. They're going to move on. They're going to be in a different stage of life. They're going to move out anyway. There's not much you can do about that. So when you take all these expenses, that's another $720 a month. So again, these are not every month you're going to have these, but you have to budget and plan for these because they are going to come up. And that's why I said at the beginning that to have that expense, that roof and the exterior paint already done, that's a huge expense in your CapEx that's already been accounted for. So you're not going to have to do the roof again for quite some time. If you buy a house or a duplex or fourplex, whatever you buy, and if the roof has more than a 5-year life expectancy, your inspections are going to say, yeah, your roof is fine. At some point, you're going to have to replace it. And in your mind, at some point, I'll have to do it down the road. Well, if some kind of weather storm comes through and in 3 or 4 years you got to replace your roof, you're now coming up with $15,000. That's could be a huge expense that people aren't counting for. So count on that. So once we have these, we're going to look at the next great thing in real estate is appreciation. So I took this actual house. I went back to Zillow, looked at the latest numbers that I could find on this house that sold. So in 2003, this house sold for $165,000. So 18 years later, in 2021, it sold for $395,000. So if we kind of average that out, that appreciation is 4.86%. So every year this house goes up by 4.86%. And in most places in the US right now, we're seeing an appreciation of over 10% in most markets. Now, again, that's in a specific given year. 2008, 2009, we saw a very drastic drop, especially in Arizona. So anyway, we count on this, but we want to be realistic. And so we're taking this 395, we're taking the historical over 18 years time frame. So we've taken those dips and those highs and we've kind of averaged them out, and it's a 4.86%. In 30 years, this home is going to be worth about $1.7 million based on the 4.86 appreciation. And the rent, again, is going to keep up with appreciation, is going to be about $13.7. Now, you can't take numbers 30 years from now and relate them to now. You have to account for that difference. And what that difference is inflation. So if we want to see where we're going to be at, it's hard to say what inflation is going to be and what the dollar can actually buy 30 years from now. So what we do is we bring that back to today's terms. So when we bring that back to today's terms, we take out the inflation. So inflation across the U.S. is running about 3.1%. And so when you take the 3.1% off of what our inflation was of the 4.8, you're actually left with the realized inflation or realized appreciation of 1.76. So our 395 is not really worth the 1.7 in today's dollars. It's worth 669, and the rents are going to be worth 54.23. So in 30 years, what am I going to actually be able to buy with my money based on today's dollars? This is going to be more realistic of what you're looking at. So you're going to have the rents of 54.23. So let's take this number, and what we're going to do is we're going to buy another property next year. So once you've bought your first property, you've taken that monthly cash flow, you've set it aside, you've taken your $100 side hustle, put it aside, and now at the end of 12 months, you've been in your property for a year, you can now buy another piece of property. So now you're going to buy another piece of property, and all we're going to do is we're just going to duplicate this. We're going to duplicate this every year. So for the next 4 years, we're going to buy this. So now we're 7 years into this thing. We've bought 5 pieces of property. We saved up our money for 2 years. We've bought 5 more pieces of property. You're 7 years in, and this is what the numbers look like. We have our assets of 669, and again, this is in today's numbers, so we can actually relate to it, and we can see what our money's going to buy in the future. So we took our assets, we times it by 5. We took our income, times it by 5. Now, another reason why we use 30 years is we got a 30-year mortgage. At the end of 30 years, your mortgage is paid off. But even though your mortgage is paid off, you're still going to have taxes and insurance. So we took our taxes and insurance, but then we did it by our actual inflation or appreciation. So we're at 248. We took our other expenses of 720, added the inflation on that. So we're looking at 1468. Now we multiply this by the 5 units, and we're looking at 7340. So we have our monthly income of $27,000 for our 5 units, and we have our expenses for our 5 units. Again, we've paid off our mortgages, so we don't have mortgage payments anymore. So that brings our monthly income down to $19,775. So your net cash flow is your income minus your expenses equals your net cash flow. So this is what we're looking at if all we did was buy these 5 properties and use that for our retirement. We have a net monthly cash flow of $19,775 in today's terms. That's $237,000 a year. And you have net assets of $3.3 million in today's dollars. My friends, welcome to the 20%. And we did this while working on a minimum wage job by doing a side hustle. This is phenomenal. This is why people invest in real estate. So understanding now, in other videos, we're going to actually start breaking this down a little bit further. We're going to get into how do you actually buy your first property? How do we do this? And so, we're going to talk about how do you get your credit score aligned, what kind of credit score you need, what kind of income you need, what your ratios need to be, your debt ratios, the loan to values. We're going to cover all this stuff that right now is kind of overwhelming for you because we've thrown so much information at you. So that's why you need to subscribe to this channel. That's why you need to select the bell icon so you get notified when new videos come out. And please share this video with somebody else. So understanding all this, hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you've kind of mind's been blown and opened up a little bit. Understanding how all this works and how this can lead to you becoming a multi-millionaire with $20,000 a month in monthly income. And this is 7 years, my friends. So I like the FIRE idea, financial independence, retire early. Now, at some time along the lines, you may realize that, hey, I only need $10,000 to live off of. Well, once you've paid down your mortgages, once your income has gone up, you've increased your rents over time, this could end up replacing your income. You actually could retire early. But this is just to show you that if all you do is just this, now we hope you keep going. If you kept doing this at year 6, year 7, year 8, now at some point you're obviously not going to want to live in these anymore. So that's when things are going to change a little bit. You're gonna have to put 20% down as an investor. So instead of getting in at 3%, you're having to put 20% down. That's $80,000. So we're going to teach you later on how you can start tapping into some of the equity in these homes and how you can still keep the home, pull money out for another property, all tax-free. This is wonderful, guys. This is a cost of living. So please subscribe, like this video, and share it with a friend. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the next video. I want to congratulate you if you made it this far. There's so much information that we covered on this video. Please save it to your playlist. Rewatch it. You'll pick out new information every time that you watch this video. And again, we kind of left you with, obviously, to me, real estate is just a huge advantage. There's so many other advantages to it that we just barely scratched the surface on it. I know it looks like we went into detail, but we really scratched the surface. Subscribe. We're going to be having some additional videos. They're going to go into actually how to buy real estate, what to look for. There's so much more coming down the pike, you guys. I don't want you to miss out on this information. But we wanted to show you kind of on a surface area how you can become financially independent and how you can retire early, and don't let money be an excuse for you. As you can see, you don't need to start with very much. And we're going to take you through the next steps of how to start building up your credit and how to understand your credit, how to set yourself up to buy that first piece of property. And hopefully we'll see you in the future videos. Please comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know what you want me to cover, and we'll kind of go over some different things. Look forward to see you. And remember, you need to understand all this stuff. It's just the cost of living.